Hello everyone, my name is Andrew, and we are going to be talking about whether or not Beetlejuice was good, and is it worth watching. So we are going to go over the movie. There will be spoiler alerts, so if you either don't care or you've already watched it and just want opinions on it, feel free to keep watching. If you care about spoilers, don't watch. We start off with Lydia, who was the main character of the previous film, who took her talents and decided to use them to make a TV show where she can see ghosts and tries to help people out. She is also dating her talent manager. But like every crazy ex, she sees Beetlejuice everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Whether it's school, whether it's an audience, whether it's children trick-or-treating. Oh, you have the same urologist that I do? Okay, maybe not that part. From Delia, who was the mom or the stepmom in the previous film as well, to say that Lydia's dad, Charles, had died. The reason why they more than likely did this is because they didn't want to bring the actual actor who played Charles because of some bad stuff that he did in 2002. I want to say what it is, but the thing is that I'm not really worried about monetization, obviously. I'm more worried about how YouTube is very strenuous on words, and I don't want to get restricted a lot. If you want to check it out, just Google his name. I'll put it up there somewhere. Then we have Lydia, the mom, and her boyfriend go to get her daughter named Astrid, played by Jenna Ortega, which, here's one of my complaints, right? I like Jenna Ortega, it's just that she plays the same character to the point where you don't see the character anymore, you just see Jenna Ortega and that's it. It's kind of like when they have The Rock and in a movie and you're just like, that's The Rock, you don't even see the character. The only difference is Jenna Ortega actually has talent for acting. Of course, she plays the, moody teen that has a bad relationship with the mom, due to Lydia and the husband divorcing, the husband dying, and she also believes that Lydia cannot see ghosts. They make it to the old house. Lydia says that the two ghosts managed to find a loophole that made them pass on, so we won't see them in this film either. At the same time of that, we go to the underworld where we see a specific type of being named Dolores break out of a few containment chambers, put herself back together, and can suck the souls out of the dead and permanently kill them. At the same time with that, she's also looking to get at Beetlejuice. So we transition to Beetlejuice, who is running his own company and is questioned by the police, which is it's interesting. I'm surprised that they didn't have the police in the previous film, but whatever. And he is played by Willem Dafoe, which I love Willem Dafoe, so he does a great job in this character role as well. Anyways, you have Jenna Ortega and Lydia fight. She ends up running away, meets this kid up in a tree house, and pretty much falls in love with him in like 10 minutes. And I'm not trying to exaggerate. I feel like it was like 10 minutes of scene that they had for their first interaction and meeting, and she instantly just like fell for him. Then we move on to the wake, where the agents asked Lydia to marry him, and she's a bit hesitant but says yes, and they're going to have the marriage on Halloween, which is in about 2 days in the film, which just keep that in mind. Basically, like, all this happens within a span of like 2 to 3 days, let's say. We'll say this too, we do get scenes of Charles in the underworld. He's usually just like a passing scene every now and then, just waiting in line, doing this, doing that, but nothing super strenuous or really that involved. The first meeting with Lydia, the boyfriend, and Beetlejuice. It's a fun scene. Honestly, I really like, I can't say this enough, I enjoy the effects so much from the original Beetlejuice to this Beetlejuice when it comes to the effects, the makeup, the humor. I like all of that. This meeting, really, nothing comes about anything really, nothing super substantial. It's just more of like, hey, I'm back kind of thing. Leo does some like weird stuff, basically, to like grieve or whatever. She's screaming in front of a camera, taking pictures of it. She's gonna do this ritual thing on Halloween where she has snakes, kind of like an Egyptian honorable thing. Move over to Halloween. We see Lydia drive Jenna Ortega to go meet this boy. They're up in an attic and they kiss, and it turns out, and they're floating up in the air after this kiss. It turns out the boy is a ghost, which, I mean, I'm not super surprised, but at the same time, it's just like, it exists. I don't hate it and I don't love it. It just exists. The only complaint that I have within that plot line is that that moved way too quick for me. Like, I just like knowing someone for like 2 days, and it seems like the Jenna Ortega character that she plays wouldn't move that quick. Does convince Jenna Ortega to do this ritual that'll bring it back to life, and he even stipulates that she might be able to see her father again. At the same time of that, though, he did not say that she would be trading her life for his. Oh, and the boy also turns out to be evil, who murked his parents and then got chased and died. That's why he's evil. Lydia finds out about this. She makes a deal with Beetlejuice that if they can get her back and be back alive, that she will marry Beetlejuice. Around the same time this is happening, Delia does the whole snake thing. It turns out they were not defanged and they're also venomous, and they bite her and she ends up in the underworld as well. Delia makes like a little deal with Beetlejuice to off the top of my head, she either says to find her husband or get her back to the world of the living. Jenna Ortega obviously gets duped. They're dragging her to the Soul Train. God, I wish I could have done that better. As she's getting escorted over there, she sees her father working as one of the tellers, because this whole thing is like built like an office area for some reason. And she sees him and he sees her. And as she's making her way into the train, Lydia and Beetlejuice break up and go somewhere in their separate ways. Lydia finds her, grabs her out of the train, takes her to the worm world because that's the only way they can escape, like that sandworm thing. And they get saved by the ex-husband that had died. A lot happened there, right? But they're all together, they're all having a happy moment where they're like, yeah, you should get along, you guys. And they're like, okay. So they go and they try and get to the boy. And as that boy gets his little thing approved, apparently, the paper, it turns out it was Beetlejuice, and it was to send him to hell. Which is super jarring, because while a scene before that, Beetlejuice was doing something else entirely different. I forget whether he was roaming around the halls or he was looking for something else, but he wasn't necessarily in that whole vicinity. So it was super jarring for that to happen. Everything's right with the world. They get back to the land of the living, and just in time for Lydia to get married to the agent. But Beetlejuice ends up breaking that down and decidedly takes over, puts truth serum into the boyfriend to confess that he was just using Lydia for the money. And then it all ends in a dance number. With Beetlejuice singing and everyone else singing. And it's a pretty long sequence where it allows the Willem Dafoe character and the police to surround the church, and allows Dolores, right? Don't forget Dolores, on her way to the church as well. Now you guys are probably asking, why didn't you bring up Dolores at all? It's because the movie doesn't really bring her up. They have a few scenes with her where she steals the soul out of a few people and then disappears. Like, she's not really brought up in any other way. So altogether, her screen time is like 15 minutes, maybe a little less, actually. Oh, we have everybody there. So we got Delia, Jenna Ortega, Lydia, Beetlejuice, the cops, Dolores, the agent there. And the way that they get out of it is that Jenna Ortega builds a little circle that transports this sandworm again to eat both the agent and Dolores. Then she finds a loophole in the contract that makes it so Lydia can break off the marriage, and due to some kind of chant that I can't remember off the top of my head, even though it's probably very obvious, but I can't remember, Lydia does a chant and Beetlejuice explodes. The William Dafoe character thanks them for basically taking care of all the issues that they were having in the Underworld with Dolores and I guess Beetlejuice. And he was like, just make sure you don't go back down there, and takes Delia back down there also. Because they were chasing after Lydia because she wasn't authorized to be down there. It's just that it wasn't like a big deal within that whole time frame span. It's the ending where Lydia and Jenna Ortega get along now. We have Delia and we have Charles that go to the Soul Train and pass on. And the other thing that we have is that Lydia actually has these dreams that they're traveling together, and all of a sudden, she gets pregnant, but it turns out to be Beetlejuice, and it's a nightmare to show that he's still around. All right, so let's start off with the good things, right? So like I said, I really love the special effects. I really love the makeup. Oh my god, I love the makeup. I always have loved the makeup from Beetlejuice a lot. I like the cinematography. I like the aesthetic that it goes for. I enjoy some of the characters because they're, some of the characters are always fun. I enjoy the comedy of it. The comedy is pretty on par for what it is. And I would say overall it's fun. The plot is okay. The main plot is okay. Alright, so let's discuss the bad things, and let's just get this out here. This is not a problem just in this film. It's a problem within Hollywood in general, and with writers or producers or somebody. Because I don't know why they try to speed things way up, and they try to throw in like 15 different plots and everything. Like, I've seen it in this movie, which I'll talk about in a second, and I've seen it in that 90s show, and I see it in a few other shows, and it's just like, can we just let characters focus on one issue or two issues and let it just kind of breathe and permeate and just kind of like let them become characters and developed? In this movie, we have Dolores, who I love Dolores, by the way. I like her icy stares. I like the way she acts. I love everything about it. It's just that you could have made that character into the next movie as the main antagonist. Nothing would have changed. If you took her out of this movie, nothing would have changed. The way to get the William Dafoe character, if you wanted him still in this film, is just have Beetlejuice under probation for what he's done or something like that. That would have flown perfectly fine. It's just that you really didn't need that character. I felt that there was just a massive amount of people just dying in a span of like 3 days. You had the Charles character that was already dead, granted. You had Delia, you had the boyfriend, you had, I don't know if you can count Beetlejuice, but you can count the Dolores. And I feel like that's like way too many characters, and that's not including the characters that are possibly still trapped in those phones that Beetlejuice did in the church. But it's just a lot of things. You don't need to have that many things happen within that film, right? You could have really slowed it down a little bit. Another thing that they did not do was answer very obvious questions the audience is going to have. For instance, why did they divorce? They just said they kind of drifted. They didn't really give too many specifics. Why did the ex-husband work in the underworld for some reason? They didn't go over that. They didn't go over the fact that why couldn't Lydia see him? Like, you could have just easily answered this question with, well, Beetlejuice made him work. Oh, and he made it so that you couldn't see him anymore. Things like that could be very obviously answered right away. To get rid of the boyfriend aspect of it and just say Beetlejuice decided to, kidnap Jenna Ortega and make Lydia sign a contract to marry him, and at the same time of that, the ex-husband sees what's going on, and you could have had more involvement with that and, mending the relationship with the family. instead of needing like the boyfriend scene in it. Is the Beetlejuice movie good? I wouldn't say good, but I would say decent. Especially decent for a sequel, because a lot of sequels tend to do things bigger and have more budget, and it never really works out to an extent. The way this one is, it's not good, but it's not bad. It's just okay. For how much stuff that they've thrown against the wall there, I think it came out pretty decent. Is it worth watching? I would say if you're a fan of the Beetlejuice movie, the original one, yes, because you'll get a lot more enjoyment out of it. I think if you're a fan, if you're a person that hasn't watched the original one and is like, oh, I'm going to go into this because there's so many people that really liked it or thought it was okay or something like that, I would say to lower your expectations down quite a bit. Even for the fans that didn't enjoy the original film, just kind of lower your expectations down just a bit, just a hair, just lower it down. Just because it's not going to be kind of what you expected it to be to an extent. Let me know your thoughts down below. I could be wrong. I could be horribly wrong. And let me know your guys' opinion. I hope your day is as awesome as you are, and I will see you in the next video.